All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV. In the dungeon, Jared. It's been a while, my friend.
It has been a while. How have you been?
Since you've been gone. Remember that song? You're too young. You guys remember that
No,
song?
I remember
Since
that
you've been
song.
gone? There you go. Jimmy Farrow's gone to Florida. He's hooked up with a former wrestler's wife. Remember Wahoo McDaniel?
I do.
So Wahoo passed away, obviously, and his wife Karen was on the show, and Jimmy and her hit it off, and he packed up his stuff.
How quick was that turnaround?
Pretty quick, man. I think probably at most 2 months.
Wow. Hey, when you know, you know. You know?
Here's the thing. I was thinking this the other day, though. So there's a little bit of jealousy there, right? Because Jimmy could just pack his bag, lock his wherever he's living, lock the door, get in his car or whatever, a plane, and you start a new life. It's not that easy, like when you're married or you own a house and
You're working for the man.
you're working for the man, right? Or we were talking earlier, right? How both of you guys are artists, and that in itself is the reward is great if you're successful. It's not so great if you're not successful, right?
It's a nightmare.
Right. So, but part of me was like, man, it must be nice not to own a house and just, not be married and just pack up your shit, meet someone new, and just start over again.
I've kind of been living like a vagabond for a
Really?
little bit. Yeah, because I left Florida. Like, I was just sick of everybody. I love Florida, but I was kind of sick of everybody and everything I'm around. And I'm looking around, and I don't have any real connections holding me here. And I haven't been with my family for years. So I just went home. Just went back to Cleveland. And it's been wonderful.
And just moved.
Just
But-
packed it up. Like, it took a couple.
Well, how long's that been now? You're back in Cleveland.
6 months maybe.
So, I'm assuming if it was 6 months ago, it was kind of summertime-ish, right?
Oh yeah, that's coming, and I'm not happy about that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So here comes the winter. You're a Florida-based guy. You've kind of gotten used to that. How are you going to deal with that, bro?
Love the sun. Yep.
Do you just take a summer trip and stay in Florida for like a couple months and then come back?
I think that'll be the idea.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Dude, I got to tell you, you look incredible.
What do you think of the shirt?
Nothing different. The shirt is awesome. Looking great. Looking like we'll talk about what you've accomplished since the last time you've been in studio, which is forget about it.
I'm dressing like a world champion.
You are, but you're dressing like a different type of world champion, like a guy that's confident and is possibly taking a whole entire organization and putting it on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into because that itself's got to be a bit stressful, right?
It's a daunting task, but the fulfillment at the end. If we lead this charge and we become something tangible and real, will be worth it.
And I think you could pull it off, but we'll get to that. I want to cover a couple of news items with you before we go to commercial break.
No.
Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got on this. Tropical disease, now a pandemic in the U.S. CDC says it's a deadlier form and it's coming via dogs. A tropical disease once seen almost exclusively among Americans returning from travel abroad is now in the U.S. with a unique strain. Thoughts of these weird diseases coming,
They just keep
right?
popping up.
Just popping up.
Here's the thing, like, you live in the pod, you'll eat the bugs, and we're gonna take your dogs from you. Enough of it. I mean, I've not heard anything about that. It seems unfortunate. I kind of distanced myself from that news cycle, but having heard that doesn't surprise me. I don't think it'll change my life, and hopefully people realize by now it doesn't necessarily need to change yours.
Are you a dog guy?
I'm a cat guy, but I like dogs.
Wait a minute. Okay, let's have this conversation.
It's tough.
Why? Okay. Grew up around all sorts of animals, but I am now like a total dog guy. But talk about being a cat guy, because I'm not getting the cat thing. I got to be honest with you.
And man, this is one of my most divisive opinions, so I'm probably getting canceled as we speak. I like dogs. I really like dogs. If I had a dog, I would probably become a dog guy. I would love the dog. I would cherish the dog. I would walk the dog. I would name the dog. I would bring the dog with me places. But due to my, wacky schedule, my overall irresponsibility for myself, let alone another life form, cats intrigued me because they're kind of like me in a sense where when they want attention, they'll seek it, but when they want to be left alone, they will be, And I've had, one really, really, really great cat, shout out Skunk, that I miss, who had dog qualities. Like, he'd follow me around. He was loyal, like, loved him. And, Clover's cool too. But I think that's why I became the cat guy, because this cat affected me so much by being a hybrid cat and dog. So, cats are, they're Sigma animals. Yes, if I were to die suddenly in my home when the cats were there and nobody knew, they would eat me. Where, as opposed to a dog,
This is true.
yeah, where a dog would jump through the window and find you help,
Right.
and probably resuscitate you because
Yes.
they're so loyal. But for my lifestyle, a cat seemed more conducive.
Which makes sense, right? Because cats self-sustainable, right? Put it, like you could come to New York, disappear for a couple of days, come back, cat's okay.
Yeah, good.
And I would think that, considering what you do for a living and the travel demands on you, if you did have a dog, you'd probably miss it, and it would be on your mind all the time. Then you can't concentrate on your match, and before you know it, you're no longer NWA World Champion.
All I'm thinking about is little Julius back home.
Exactly.
Is he okay? Is he being walked?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
That makes all sense. I think when you get older, then you could turn back to becoming a dog guy.
I think when this run ends, and my days of fighting are done, life, culture, and in wrestling, that I would probably retire in some sort of a wooded atmosphere with a cabin and, a hot plate and maybe some electricity, but I'd have a dog too.
And growing a long beard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Showering once a week,
If that.
if that. So, but we did establish, though, dogs are better than cats. It's just lifestyle.
It's different flavors of ice creams. And
Yeah.
I'm not afraid, even as a cat guy, to say I understand why a dog would be better.
Understood.
Right?
Understood.
So, but I'm not going to shit on a cat.
I need the NWA World Champion to weigh on in this. Oklahoma school bus driver is charged with kidnapping after he refused to let kids get off the bus while climbing out the emergency exit to escape. A bus driver has been charged with kidnapping after he told the kids, "Sit down. You're not going to be with your mom today. I've got you now."
That sounds like kidnapping. That sounds like, I mean, within the context that was described, that sounds like a good old-fashioned.
And by the way, I know September 11th we talked about the big event, and unfortunately for us, but fortunately for you, or maybe not, you will be in Oklahoma where this incident happened.
Yeah, and also any aspiring professional wrestler in the Oklahoma area, I'm going to be conducting a 2-day seminar within the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. And, now that I'm officially the 13th most powerful man in wrestling and getting people hired, it is an NWA/Exodus tryout. So look out for that. There'll be details online. I don't want to talk too much.
I mean, just thinking about everything that's happening, because I think you were here like, 6-7 months ago.
Oh, I would say it was about a year and a half.
Yeah, maybe it was a year. I don't know. Like I said, I'm old. I can't even remember what I ate yesterday.
It was heated of divisive culture times because I was already taking a lot of flack for not really doing anything or saying anything, but being with you got me more. And I'm like, they seem like good guys. I don't know. I was fine.
You know what? That's what I'm saying. At least give us some. You know what? I love you for that, because we needed that type of credit. Every time a guy comes in here, bam, all of a sudden something magical happens, and we were ecstatic when we got to get this after the commercial break. I got to get through these news clips with you because it's really important that the NWA World Champion weighs in on social issues
and kidnapping.
Here's a tough one, though.
Oh no.
This is maybe a little more serious. Okay. Kind of putting you on the spot, but not really.
Please not be.
Very easy. It's easy but hard.
Okay.
It's cat but dog. Fans grill Pro Wrestling League for making anti-Semitic joke days after Hamas kills over 1,000 Israelis.
So I don't know much about that because I kind of stay off the grid of internet wrestling news because, as I've known and seen myself reported about, majority are fictitious and lies. But I do recall seeing something and I believe it was AEW, and I don't know
Well,
the context of it.
Let's even forget even if it happened, it didn't happen. That
Yeah.
really doesn't matter. I guess the point I want to ask you, as being such a high-level professional wrestler, and let's be honest, a businessman,
Yeah,
what you've done in this industry is to be applauded for sure.
thank you.
Is there a point where wrestling needs to stay away? You know, back in the old days, we had, you know, the Iranians and the Russians and blah, blah, blah. Considering today's culture, does wrestling have to be much more careful on what they're portraying?
Yeah, I mean, I would think when you think about the grand scheme of things, wrestling is an escape and it's entertainment, so it doesn't necessarily need to beat you over the head. I do believe in creating art and entertainment that some aspects of culture are required to kind of play with, but at what point is it not conducive to that to divide so heavily on something so heated and complex, right? So, yeah, I think you can lay off of it. I mean, got a lot for not really doing or saying anything, just being implied that I thought certain ways. And it cost me business. It cost me opportunities. It cost me possibly hirings in places. So, and without really doing it. So it's if I want to get my cultural, hot button takes, I'm going to do the research myself, and I'm not going to look to pro-graps for any inspiration, I guess.
And you're at a level now where you don't need that type of gimmick to get yourself noticed. Everybody knows who you are. Obviously, the NWA, I'll keep saying again, world heavyweight champion. So I guess my point is they should stay away from this stuff. I
think too, when you harken back to the days of Iron Sheik and Volkov and things like that. I don't know. It was, I don't know how to word it, but it was it was cartoonish almost.
Mm-hmm.
It was parody. It's Rocky IV.
Yes.
So did Sylvester Stallone really win the Cold War by beating Ivan Drago in Moscow on Christmas Day? No, but it just had some pomp and circumstance to it. Where today, with knowledge is, I guess, not knowledge, but information, whether true or not, is so accessible. And it can divide people in such a way that, yeah, you don't need it in wrestling, really, Like, I think when WWE did they had Hillary and Barack.
Yeah.
Like that, like goofy, campy. I think that's all right. Parodies.
Yeah, that's like parody and fun,
yeah.
right?
And it's parody over our own kind of goofy structure, as opposed to we're on the cusp of something that nobody really wants. It's not a good place to be.
Personally, I think obviously the climate in this entire world has changed now. You talked about the Iron Sheik or whatever, Nikolai Volkov. Back then, look, a guy like me couldn't have a behind the curtain wrestling show, right? It's like you just weren't allowed to do it. You guys held that very tight, and now everybody can do everything. Everybody can be an actor. Everybody could be this. Everybody could be that. And everybody's got an opinion, and if someone has enough of an opinion, or the silent minority can affect someone in your type of position, for sure.
Yeah, they certainly can. Cancel culture was kind of a cancer to this world, and I don't know, it seems like it's kind of balancing out, though, where people are kind of realizing just because people are saying this doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I think so much fictitiousness has been kind of outed. Like, you're always going to have a divide, but people seem to be at least trying to gain knowledge before formulating an opinion. Now, maybe I'm wrong, because I don't know.
I don't think you're wrong, but here is probably the most serious question of them all, because you brought it up. Rocky IV, right? He defends our country, he goes to Russia, he beats the giant Russian, he comes back, finds out someone stole all his money. Do you think the government should have been responsible to give Rocky Balboa his money back so he could at least live the lifestyle he was used to, considering the hero he was?
You literally saved democracy.
Exactly. And they send him off to the gutter of Philadelphia, where he lives in a one-room apartment.
You can keep the robot, though. Fuck, that's sucked.
And somehow his kid got changed out too,
Yeah,
right?
that's a shame. Well, his kid, dude, you're Rocky's kid, and he's like one of the worst characters ever. Even in Rocky Balboa, he's kind of a wimp. He's kind of a weasel.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he doesn't like his dad. I mean, that dude seemed like he had a heart of gold. Like, granted, he's took a few hits to the head, but he seemed like he's inspiring. He's a champion. He worked hard. He loved his mother more than anything. And he's just kind of like, oh, my dad's Rocky 6. Shut up. My dad's EC2. It's awesome.
You know it's scary that you and I have put a lot of thought into the life of Rocky Balboa and the problems that he's had.
Yeah.
But he recovers. He owns a restaurant. He gets a fight later on in his career, so it all ends up okay.
Man, I like that one too because he's too slow now, so he just had to get strong.
Yes.
Break bones. That was cool.
Yes.
Dude, Stallone's awesome. Think about his life, what he did to get, talk about art, the passion he had for the script he wrote, that he sold his dog,
Yeah.
right, to get that done. And you said everybody's an actor, everybody's this, everybody's that. They are in theory, but very few are willing to do what is necessary to achieve the success they think they want. So.
You bring up a good point because if someone would have played, if he just would have sold the script, who knows who they would have put in that role?
Robert De Niro's Rocky Balboa.
Oh, it would have been awful.
Yeah,
all right, you're getting me off track, but they're very important questions. The wrestler of the movie.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the wrestler of the movie?
That was really good.
Okay.
I thought Mickey Rourke bought into it.
He was great.
Yeah, and I think.
But do you know that Nicolas Cage
Yeah.
was going to be the wrestler? How do you think that would have turned out?
It seems like it was peak meme style Nicolas Cage too. So I don't think it would have the artistic hard bite and the cold reality that the general public who don't understand wrestling, especially at that level, the independent level, could feel, because it'd just be Nick Cage going, doing Nick Cage things. Did you ever hear Nick Cage went to, I think it was a Ring of Honor show, because he was with Aronofsky, I believe the name was, and he was watching the show, and he had a bunch of notes, and it was just kind of, his questions were, I can't remember what podcast it was, I'm sorry, what a bad story. But I heard it on a podcast he was at, and he shared his notes, and they were just crazy, weird gibberish to whomever saw them. Bad story. Sorry. I had no payoff. I thought it would come to me.
Do you know who the associate producer of the wrestler was?
I don't.
Neither do I.
Okay.
All right, there you go. So anyway, November 11th, where my guest here won't be in New York at that time because he'll be in Oklahoma, we'll have in studio Paul London along with cheerleader Melissa. Our producer here had something to do November 11th, but now that he sees that my new co-host will be in studio and cheerleader Melissa will be here, he thinks he may be changing his plans. Good choice? What do you think?
Absolutely.
I think so.
I think, I don't want to say you upgraded, but you upgraded as a co-host. Producer, Johnny on the spot.
There you go. Our own Jimmy Farrell, along with his partner Bart Griggs, make up the band Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as In My Dreams, This Life Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain. You can find their music on the Wisteria Hall YouTube page, where you could hit like and subscribe. Go to Spotify, Apple Music, download Reverb Nation. If you didn't know it, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. With your permission, I think, the show that brought this man to become the NWA world. Now, you've been on every podcast, but you going to pull that bad boy out?
I was waiting for the right time.
Whenever you decide, because I might mark. I'm serious, I may mark
Let me
out.
just pull it out of my bag here.
Wow, drug money. Nice.
Oh, whoops. Oh, wrong bag.
It's not there.
It's supposed to say bombs and stuff.
Wow, there it is, man. Wow.
It's pretty cool.
That is more than pretty cool.
Yeah.
After commercial break, we'll discuss that. I mean, that's nostalgia. He has now entered all-time greatness, right? He's holding a title that only some of the greatest have ever held. And
like Tyrus.
yes, like Tyrus. We got to speak about Tyrus, too. If you're lucky enough to live in New York, you can catch us on New York Cable on channel 115 every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. and Saturday at 11:30 a.m. and channel 20 at Tuesday at 7 p.m. We also are on a network called the Intuitive Network. It's a free app. It's almost like Netflix, right? It's an up-and-comer. It's you got movies, you got documentaries, you've got comedy, whatever. It's all there for you, and most importantly, it's got Monte the Pharaoh. That is IN2ITIVE Network. Download it. It's free. And why are we number one? Because Jim Beam says so, our number one sponsor. We'll be right back where we're honored. I'm honored. My partner's in Florida. He couldn't be bothered to show up. I tried to get him to come here. He wanted to go over the internet and because he really wanted to see you, but I said, no, we ain't doing that shit.
I'm not watching
You didn't want
720,
earphones on.
pixelized, frozen.
So I get the honor of hanging out with the NWA World Champion. Look at that belt. EC3 will be right back. You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence. Dude, we got to move this TV because I got to kind of always lean over to see when someone's calling. We're right back with Long Island's number one pro wrestling broadcast. We're on the couch is the NWA World Champion, EC3. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I think our first segment was dynamite. I like having conversations. Like, we could talk about wrestling all day, but you ask, real questions that kind of get us, into a conversation with depth. And so I trust my intuition with you.
Well, that's what we try to accomplish here, and I will tell you this is what you guys do for a living brings joy and fantasy in some cases.
True.
And privilege. I'm running out of words, but I mean, what you guys do, how you keep yourselves in shape, you're making a difference in the regular human being's life. And when we built this show, we decided, hey, look, everybody's going to talk about wrestling, right? And what you did here or what you did there. We want to know about the man, right? What's behind the man. But I will tell you, with that on your shoulder, I'm just like, I was a WWE guy my whole life, Northeast. But there's something about that belt that it's... My favorite belt used to be the Intercontinental Green Belt, the old school Tito Santana, Greg Valentine
See,
belt.
mine was the white strap, but I understand.
Right.
Green's good.
But that's pretty incredible.
It's cool. Man, it really is. And like Tom said earlier, you want to come back?
Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're good. Come on in.
Well, he mentioned nostalgia. And even as we were coming down to this road and challenging and, having the match, it didn't hit me till afterwards. I'm like, oh, wait. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. So despite whatever ebbs and flows and changing of the guard the NWA's had over its course in its history, at the same time, like you said, you're in a pantheon with like some of the all-time greats. Then you're like, what part of you wants to say, what am I doing here? But then the other part's like, this is where I belong, and that's cool.
You do belong, and I think, I don't know if you're religious, but I think God has a plan, right? I mean, you had it all over you, right? From, Impact all the way to the WWE, NXT, and whatever derailed you, whatever we want to call it, derailment, right? Happens to everybody, no matter what you do in a career.
I'm not the first, and I won't be the last.
Exactly, but now you found yourself here. Think about, and I want you to answer this, we've had Tommy Rich in here, I mean, Tommy Rich, Terry Funk, Harley Race, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. When you got that belt, and like you said, all of a sudden the reality hit.
Yeah.
Who did you think of when you finally, put that belt around your waist?
The first thing was kind of like a montage of segues from, you know, the derailment till here. Like that kind of flashed through me real fast. And then as it was like raising up, that was my moment. So I wasn't really thinking of anything other than myself at it. But then when I brought it back down, like the names you just mentioned, it was very hard to not think like, shit, Flair, Dusty, Rich, like. So I'd say on the third pose with it, it was like, oh my, yeah, I'm right there, baby. Up yours, Steamboat.
That's right. That's right. Think about that, man. My God. I never thought, right? So Tyrus, right? He's on Fox News.
Yeah.
He did bring a lot of attention to that belt, right? He kind of was bringing the NWA to light.
He did a lot, like, wrestling fans might not know the significance of having a championship belt talked about and discussed on, I believe Gutfield's the highest rated cable comedy show. I'm sorry, or news show, whatever.
Right.
Like, a lot of people are watching that. And what's weird about it, because as wrestling fans, wrestlers were often in the bubble of, we're just talking about wrestling, as opposed to how it needs to kind of break out and be more mainstream. And, like, this is the best form of art, entertainment, physicality. Like, this is why we love it. So getting more to know of it and indulge in it is cool. But you're hanging out. We're at the hotel, the Chase, which is, the legendary venue. But at the same time, I'm wrestling Tyrus for the World Championship, and the day before, he's kind of like in one part of a room walking up an escalator, and I'm kind of in a different part of the room. And this, old lady and her husband walk by. And then I'm kind of following up on that walk, and they walk by me. She's like, do you know who that is? I'm like, George? It's like, no, it's Tyrus. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's George. But, so it's just like, he affected that person. Did they even know there was a wrestling show going on? Did they have any idea?
Right.
I don't know that, but there was attention brought to it. And now as the NWA is entering kind of a new era, we need to retake the bubble, and I think then we need to pop it.
Well, think about the, for lack of a better term, prestige that the NWA had the confidence, because that's a gutsy move, right? Again, I don't know what was behind Tyrus's retirement, whatever else, but it's a gutsy move, right? Because, like you said, that belt was on Fox News all the time. Big time free advertisement. How does it make you feel that the company said, this is the guy that could take us to the next level?
I work so hard and with such diligence that it's what I wanted, and I would say I manifested and expected it. Like, the year I spent working up in the NWA, I'm like, this is going to be my, like, I don't want to say masterpiece, but I will. This will be my creative masterpiece and my last, like, what I can do for this business as far as, I'm not going to be like Cena, a Roman level guy. It's not going to happen, right? And I'm okay with that. But what is my final, give back, and what I want it to be is bringing the NWA, to the places it should be. So if I can do that, then mission accomplished.
So that in itself is a monumental task, right? It's fair to say you guys are number 3 right now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I mean, it's like strange how to rank, like 3, and considering that legacy conglomerate mammoth structure that's been around, for so long is number 1, and then number 2, therefore being, a company on cable television funded by a billionaire.
Right.
Like, so being number 3 with, like, I don't know. I think 3's up for grabs, but I definitely would view us as 3, but it's a debatable subject.
When I say number 3, right, it's, again, when Corrigan brought the NWA, the whole story behind it, right? They were on YouTube. It was hot for a minute there, and then it kind of really cooled down for a bit. COVID hit, really affected. He hung in there, which was great.
Yeah.
The WWE's this global monster, right? They have, again, the NWA is the NWA.
Right.
Can you make, as the world champion and your team, the NWA a legitimate threat to the other two?
I don't think anything could rock the WWE. It's too ingrained. It's too structured. Its foundation is built. It's too vast. It's beyond anything we can ever hope to accomplish as far as a business. As far as a business, William Patrick Corrigan funds this out of, so he's puts all himself at risk to make sure the NWA not only survives, but hopefully thrives. Where he's also not backed by, again, $1 billion. So to rock that boat from a business structure, we'll see what happens with the television deals, but I'm not going to really worry about that as much, because what I think we can do is challenge them both greatly with creativity and physicality with purpose and talent and the perspective of the business that I think's been missing a long time. So Goldberg said it the other day, right? He said something about current wrestlers lack depth, and he doesn't think anybody can bring it back. Where I'm so weirdly in depth that I don't even know where EC3 begins and Michael Hutter begins at this point. But then also, is he watching everything? Probably not, because I don't have the time to, so I wouldn't imagine he does either. But bringing depth back is important, so I'm glad he kind of said that. But I don't think it's a lost cause. You just have to stay the course.
I think you could do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you love what you do, right? You've been taught probably a lot of old school processes, I'm thinking.
I actually wrote a gigantic book about the processes that I'll probably turn into an online course.
Can you share that a little bit?
Yeah, I call it the tenets of wrestling. So I wrote 10 almost commandments, like I was Moses, standing on Sinai. But I've realized how much knowledge I've acquired from so many people. And the best thing about wrestling, the way you would come up, the way you would learn, was working with the veterans and then listening to them talk. So current talent, even my generation, that kind of lapsed. So we didn't have that as much, and the current generation really doesn't have it at all. That all this great knowledge that's been accumulated, nobody's ever written it down, right? So I don't know it all, and I haven't gotten to pick every brain. But every one I did pick, I've retained and kind of structured and wrote.
Will this be a book that a fan can get?
I'm wondering how to apply it, because I think if I'm looking at it as a business, fans have money. They would spend, So making it available, it's not really breaking the fourth wall too much, or the kayfabe, but I'd probably word it differently if it was going to be a fan thing. But then again, I think a fan that would seek that out knows enough that maybe, even if it's completely geared towards a wrestler, their reading of it can then therefore make them appreciate what we do even more. So yeah, I'm evaluating that.
Let me ask you this. Fans, right? You guys have your wrestling terminology. Do you find the word mark disrespectful? Or if not, what does mark mean to EC3?
Why is that a tough question for me to answer? Because a mark in, territorial days was, somebody that is a fan, right? That's going to pay money, that we perceive our characters as real in front of them, so they do not, understand what we're actually doing. But we're kind of past that. I don't see mark as derogative anymore, because I will use it and I don't mean it insulting. It's just a mark. But then there's also time where if a wrestler is backstage complaining about their finish, or they didn't get their moves in or something, I'm like, you're a mark, dude, shut up. So you care about the things that don't matter, as opposed to what really matters is what's the business at hand, and how is that business going to go forward. And just because you lost a match, if you do this shit the right way, somebody goes over and somebody gets over. That's the way I look at it. So that's why W's or L's never affect me mentally. And I'm not. There's times in the WWE when you think you're always on the bubble and about to get shit canned, that I'm losing the opening match in this developmental territory. They're gonna fire me tomorrow, because
right.
You're just constantly
You're equating a loss with eventually a loss of your job within the company,
like,
which
oh, they don't-
makes sense.
Yeah, but it's not, and certainly not for any of the cases I've mentioned. So, and even if that's a test to you as a talent, like, get over in the loss. And how do you do that? One way, by making your opponent look even better. Another way is by telling the story properly that protects you. So, yes, you may have lost. Hey, are you a baseball fan? Team? Like, anyway, I'm a Yankees fan. They don't go 162-0.
Right.
They lose.
Right.
Right? And they didn't make the playoffs. Sorry, guys. But
Bad year this year,
Yeah.
man.
so, looking at it like that, just because you were being pinned or defeated, how can you get over within telling the story properly? And so it doesn't affect me. But they're being a mark if they're complaining, I think. So
Right.
then that is derogatory. I think calling a wrestler a mark is derogatory. Calling a fan a mark is an acknowledgement that they are a fan of what we do. So catch-22 on that question.
Yeah, I don't know. I always felt like when someone says a mark, right? I mean, just like anything, right? Your fans pay your paycheck, right? If
Right.
they love you, you're gonna make money, and I just always found it weird because to me it just felt like it was almost disrespectful to the people that are actually paying your paycheck. You
Yeah,
know?
and I can see how it would be. Personally, I wouldn't use it, but I get how it can be. And I guess it's all, again, as we talked about, in context. How's it being described? These fucking marks.
Right.
I don't know. Or, this group, I think the marks over there. Let's make sure we're,
Yeah.
keeping this shit real. So, yeah.
So, Nick Aldis made an appearance on the WWE. He's now working with
I
them.
did.
Yes. I think you knew that, right?
I did? No. Oh, he's SmackDown.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I did.
Yeah.
I thought he was an agent, that's why.
I don't know, 7 months ago, I guess he had that falling out with Corrigan.
Yeah.
Where did you stand on that whole thing, right? Aldis helped build the NWA. Corrigan also helped build the NWA back to prestige. Did you feel both had valued points in that termination of that
I
relationship?
think everybody has an opinion and validation within their opinion because it's the way they are thinking and feeling within the moment. I'm not lying to you, and I'm not trying to duck the question.
No, I'm not. No.
But when that was going on, I'm like, I'm not even going to look at this because I don't want to cloud my judgment or my work or what I'm doing. I'm very, very, very loyal to WPC. So, not saying that Nick didn't have points, I just don't know what they were. But also, what I think for anybody involved in anything like that, there's a time and there's a place to have that conversation, and I don't think it's via X, right? But then if you're being talked about and degraded online or told one thing, then that's what people think immediately because, oh, that's the truth. Well, here's my truth, and there's two versions of two opposing truths, and yeah, I really didn't know what it was as much, but I think William's happy and I think Nick's happy, so I guess it worked out.
Where did you learn that skill to disassociate or not get involved in the gossip? I'm assuming the wrestling world is much harder to escape you all talking about each other, right?
Man, sometimes it's like high school. Honestly, reading Stoicism and philosophy, that's how I got away from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's great.
But, like, at the end of the day, the bad run in the WWE, and then, everybody's like, I got buried, or I didn't get pushed, or they underutilized as a term, and I fucking hate, but people say it a lot. If I look at it, like, my run was not good, but who do I have to blame? I can blame a lot of things. There's a lot of aspects that led to it. But at the end of the day, the one person you can only blame is yourself. And how was that my fault is that I didn't fight for myself. I allowed it to happen. So I'd have a much clearer conscience if, whether I get fired or not, that I fought for myself. Instead, you play the good soldier, and I say in the book, if you play the good soldier, you're the first to get shot. So remember that. But everybody, yeah.
Plus, I think you were there when COVID hit, and that was a difficult time for
I was coming
everybody,
off an
right?
injury,
Yeah.
concussion, right? And then so when I finally got cleared, COVID came, and then we were gone.
I think sometimes things just don't happen at the right time, and
I got something else from the book. There's 4 times and places in wrestling. There's a wrong place at the wrong time. There's the right place at the wrong time. There's the wrong place at the right time. But the only time that's going to get you where you need to go is the right place at the right time.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm ready to buy that book already, man.
I'll send you some.
All right, tough question coming up, right? You've worked for some of the best, right? You've worked for McMahon, and I know you're not a huge fan of him, but I'm just, you got to...
I have a great amount of respect for him, but if I disappeared tomorrow and someone said I disappeared, he would be, who? Or he wouldn't care. So,
I get it.
Yeah.
Triple H,
Yeah.
Dixie Carter, Russo, Bischoff. But put Tony Khan aside, you didn't work for him, but obviously, with McMahon being the leader, now you have Billy Corgan, right? So we go back to you being this old school mentality wrestler also. Here's Billy Corgan, very famous rock star, great musician. What the fuck does he know about wrestling?
Right. You think that, too. What attracts me to him and our personalities is the outside-the-box creativity. And I think what's important about leadership, and I think he demonstrates this, is that, he delegates the duties to the people that are exceptional at it. So while he's creatively involved and it's his show and what he says goes, and he's, got the pencil and the book, at the same time, like the match with Tyrus, that story was ours. We had to finish. How do we want to tell the story? And there wasn't really any sort of I need this to happen and this to happen. So he's very unintrusive when he trusts you to get the job done. So I can vouch for that. So I love the perspective of people that love wrestling, don't quite know it as far as being surrounded, corrupted, influenced solely by it. I love the perspective of somebody who's done something incredible and has gone out there and brings that insight and knowledge to what we do. I've had a good conversation with him about what's the difference between making your set list and a match card, and how does this flow? How you're putting a set list together, how does it flow to a wrestling card? Do you ever look at things like that? So I enjoy the art of conversation like we're having here. So I don't ranking people. I think I'm very proud to be working for him and then in theory partnered with him.
So this leads back, I was talking about Tony Khan. So you don't really hear about issues with Corgan being run over by the boys. On the other hand, I know you hear about it. I'm not saying you're digging into the dirt sheets, but CM Punk had his problems with Khan. A couple other guys had problems with Khan and kind of made him look like shit, right?
Yeah.
How come that doesn't happen to Corgan?
I think, with the Aldous thing, I think you can say that kind of happened. And I think it's not as high profile, maybe, because the internet does love to report on the negativity, and especially if it's the internet's, brainchild, which is AEW, they want to talk about it and it alone. William is fiercely, respects loyalty, too. So I think within that, he would never... A talent would see that for the most part. Did that answer it, I guess? I'm trying to think, too.
It does.
Yeah, with Tony, too. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm not part of the situation. You hear what you hear.
You're just giving your opinion, but I'm going to ask you this. Do you think there's a difference because Corgan is this well-known, very respected musician, and Tony Khan is a millionaire with daddy's money? I'm just saying, is that the reason, do you think?
I think William delegates, and I don't know this for sure because I've not worked for him, Tony influences more what he thinks he wants to see, or what he thinks the fans want to see. And here's one other thing I wrote in the book, and maybe this parlays to it because I think Billy gets it, is creativity is not giving people what they want. Creativity is giving people what they don't know they need. So sometimes thinking you want to give the people what they want, hey, we're going to have this match and it's going to be 20 minutes, it's going to be great. Cool. That will be a good, no shit, that's going to be a good match. But how did we get to this match as opposed to it's just there? Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's old school, man. What I grew up on, right? It's like
It's missing.
use the mic, use the story to get me to want to watch the match, right?
Right.
Get me there.
It's, dude, the chase, delayed gratification
Yes.
is something that we don't have enough of, or we don't want because it's so much dopamine. It's so easy to get hit. My phone's going off right now. Like if I look at it and look at a comment, I'm getting a dopamine hit. It's like bang, 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 bang. Where when you have to wait for something and earn it, and there's ebbs and flows to how it comes, and maybe you don't get it, but maybe you do. Then you get it, and then you get the payoff.
Right.
You know, it's like having sex.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant.
Yeah. There's a lot of those old timer parlays into the art of intercourse were
Yeah.
not in the book, but maybe I'll keep one in.
So you're the NWA champion who is now bringing the NWA. You just signed a television deal. Can you share with the family out there
Hey, fam.
what it feels to EC3 to be the NWA world champion who's carrying? And listen, the champion does mean something. The champion is the guy.
It
This
has
is the
to
guy
mean
that's
something.
going to draw the money. You're the guy bringing them the TV. Tell us about the TV deal, and then I want to ask you, what kind of pressure does EC3 feel?
Like the TV deal came out online, right? Just recently.
Yes.
So I've known about its structure or constructing for so very long, you know, not saying anything, where the announcement of it, like okay, good, we're in business, you know. So I didn't think much of that other than like good, because now we can move forward within that realm and hopefully thrive with the CW network and whatever it pertains to. But the interesting thing is the pressure, because you're coming off of, like you said, a run of somebody who has national fame for real outside the bubble, where we're kind of back inside it. So are we going to lose some attention, maybe lose some eyeballs? I don't know, but keeping that momentum going forward, we're in a new era, they're calling it. I like to call it the over era. But one thing I think wrestling doesn't realize sometimes, and I'm not saying we're going to do this because I think it's straight to the moon, but taking small steps back are how you take giant leaps forward. So if we lose 2.5 million people seeing the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on a television show, how many are we actually converted to watching sustained? How many would come over to the CW network? You don't know, and you can't know. But that weighs on your mind. I think the pressure, too, is like we have the pay-per-view, Samhain, 10/28, Cleveland, Ohio, NWATix.com. I'm from Cleveland. It's my hometown, right? And so, as a company, too, we don't have a vast amount of resources. We have a great group of people that work their asses off on so many facets, where, as the champion, I'm the world's champion. And I'm also on the streets nailing flyers to a wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it has to do well. I will not allow it to fail. You know, so there's a lot of pressure in that. And Cleveland's a walk-up town, too, sometimes. So you're like, are people coming? You don't know. But, like, that pressure weighs because you're doing so much. Can I even focus on the match? I have a no-limits match with Tom Latimer. Like,
Right.
you know, regardless of the stipulation, like Tom is one of the best wrestlers I know, and we're going to tear it up. But am I not putting enough thought into training or ideas or what we can do to make this really good story exceptional while I'm hustling and bustling, passing out flyers, you know, and stuff like that? But it has to draw, and I'm the champion, so if it doesn't, that's my responsibility.
Well, that's what I mean. When you look back and you see your team back there, because they're your team, you're the man now, right?
Yeah.
When you're going to be doing these events, and then you're going to go on TV, and you're going to have this TV contract, do you look back at that team and again, just the pressure question, like, man, these people, my family's livelihood is on the line because I am the champion.
Yeah, I think one thing use the term earlier, leadership is the only thing I can do is control myself, and I'm not some guy who's screaming from a mountaintop how to be a leader. I don't have I'm not Jocko and shit like that, but they will respect if you what you do and how you do it and how you put your business out there. So leading by example is like super imperative to me. That if I were to let them down, which I won't because I'm manifesting nothing but positivity, but if something were to come, first off, no matter what or who or how it happened, none of that matters because immediately you take accountability for it. But letting them see, knowing they saw me do everything I can, success or failure, regardless, delivering a 10, delivering an 8, delivering a 4. If I did everything I could, and I have the respect of your peers is really important. So.
And you've got the respect of the fans. I know that for sure.
Yeah, some of them think I suck. I'm awesome, dude. I'm really good. Like,
You're in such great shape. I mean, what is a typical diet and a day for EC3?
I'm hanging with Tom here, and he keeps asking me, "Hey man, can I cook
Tom,
you?
you're ruining his diet, dude.
Can I cook you this souffle?" I'm like, "Dude, I got pay-per-view in a week. I'm dialing in." "Oh, can I add this to your thing?" I'm like, I just want dry chicken. I know it sucks. Just let me eat it. But like that's super important to me, and that's one thing, leading by example. Where, I have the CYN co-op, and I'm training kids, and now we have NWA Exodus, and I'm bringing people in. Seeing how I'm running my day with all these things going on, that I'm still dialing in and prepped for anything that could happen. So the diet's crazy. Like, I've made 70% of the meals, and then he cooked me chicken and rice for the other 30%.
Wow.
So I have every one of them structured. I have a plan in case something goes wrong. Oh, if I got delayed out of my flight, you know what? I got a backup one. We're good.
Right.
I'm not going to freak out. Because also, if I didn't have the backup one, I'd freak out. And then the thing about being a psychopath is if, like, you kind of blow your routine just a little bit, you just, oh, it doesn't matter. And then you go all in, and then you're just self-hating yourself. Right?
Do you ever fall off the train? Like, and if you do, what is a day for EC3 when I've just derailed myself and I don't give a shit today and I'm going all at it?
Yeah, when I would, like, get hammered, there would be, like, the next day would be a total derail. And then first off, you're waking up, I'm like, why did I do that? Oh, I suck. And it's like, why does it matter? You live a little, kid. And then you're like, man, I haven't had Chick-fil-A breakfast in 8 years. And then you have 5 biscuits and you're just covered in it. Like, I can't do anything today, so I'm going to go home. But I have the chocolate-covered pretzels in the freezer, and I'm not going to eat. If I don't eat them now, I'm not going to eat them later because, like, this day's a wash. And then, yeah, it's a mess. But the way I keep myself centered with that, I eat fairly well. So I'm not killing myself, but I just plan accordingly.
Right.
So a cheat meal, perhaps, I schedule, usually on a leg day, and I know in advance what I'm going to get, whatever craving I'm having, and I have it, and then, I probably add a little too much sweets afterwards, because, again, I'm an addict. But then, because it was structured, planned, and actually beneficial to how I train, the next day, I'm okay, and we're back.
NWA World Champ, I'm just going to keep saying it. All right, last question for you, and I'll get you guys out of here. And again, what an honor it is to have you in the studio. You're an incredible human being, great wrestler, and the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I still can't believe, Jared, you don't even know, like, that belt there. I was like having like a fantasy. I was like, I'm at the studio. Maybe like EC3 just forgets it and leaves it on the couch, and I run off with it. I take it home.
Dude, that's a responsibility because I'm bad at leaving things and packing and travel. Like, I left my cape at OVW.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my cape. Luckily, I got it back.
Well,
but
you can't.
I just,
I would have, if I would have found, I would have brought it back to you.
thank you.
Maybe. I don't know. So the big news they're also saying is Corgan wants to bring back regional professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I ask you because I don't know. Will regional professional wrestling work in today's wrestling world?
I think territorial, like back in the day, because I was listening to Cornette talk about it, and luckily he didn't shit all over me. But, like, what his gripe was, like, and it's true, we're not going to have the schedule of a territories. We're working 3 or 4 dates a week, and we're, moseying around. So I think the concept of it, as it was in the past, no. But I think regional being, it is a marketing term. An affiliate being a marketing term. Territories sound cool. how can we evolve that into 2023? And that's by partnering. Like, I was the first one. I've run 2 shows, and we're the first, regional territory. It's crazy that he has that trust in me, and now that's another pressure thing to deliver on, and a whole new group of people kind of depending on me, because now I'm their gateway to their career. But we're not going to be running 3 days a week, 5 days a week. There's no way. We're going to be running, structured 4 to 6 weeks, like in theory an independent, but I think the regionals and the affiliates and the territories can come together under one banner as sort of content distribution. I think that's the future, right? Intuitive network maybe. Right?
Intuitive network.
Yeah.
All right, here's maybe to me it's not a stupid question, but you just blast me if it is. So back in the day, say Ric Flair, right? He was the NWA champion, and Fritz von Erich needed him in Texas. He went to Texas. Then then Puerto Rico, Cologne wanted him over there. Could an independent organization, just say Monte Wrestling Federation, can I reach out to the NWA and say, I want to have EC3 defend his title for my organization?
I think an independent can. A lot of the independents see what we're doing and want the name attached, because why wouldn't they? And it's, but I'm first, all right? And you got to go through me. And everybody that wouldn't call me back a year ago or talk to me or defend me knowing I was being lied about wants my shit now. I'm the gatekeeper. Having said that, yes, and I think, so territorial systems back in the day were, 7 boards of directors coming together to choose a champion, which really made that an honor, because 7, 8, whatever, people had to agree that you are the best wrestler or you're the best for business. Monte Wrestling Federation can reach out to NWA, but they can also reach out because we're still independent contractors. So what I'm doing now with the World Title World Tour is trying to make sure within the bubble this title goes to as many places as possible. Would I love it to be organized and booked by the NWA so I don't have to talk to people? Yeah, for sure. Right. But at the same time, like, taking upon myself and the opportunity, because I love doing this. So that's why we're here. We'll do Outlaw Pro tomorrow. We'll do Wrestle Pro Sunday. And these are really good independents too. So bringing that hopefully brings the brand awareness, the prestige back. The talent representing hopefully lives up to it. Me, I do. And then the talent, challenging the best ideas. Well, if they're not beating me, nobody beats me. But they leave better and more over than when we started. So that's kind of the goal of that.
I personally think this is going to take off. I really had that gut feeling. I do think maybe you should bring back Into the Fire as the entrance song for NWA, though, from Dokken, when it first started.
Dokken, yeah.
That shit was the bomb, man. And for an old guy like me, I was like, holy shit.
I wonder if we have the rights to it, because maybe I can use it for excellence.
Corey can flip a couple of bucks and pay Dokken.
What
is Dokken asking for that? Anyway?
I don't know, but I'm sure he can also look at his phone and go, D-O-K. Hey, Dokken?
Yeah.
It's Billy.
Let me use your shit. Right.
Cool.
All right, man, I want to thank you. It's always an honor. You're incredible. I got nothing else to say. Great interview. Fantastic, man. And you still didn't answer the question. Does the government give Rocky Balboa that money so he could live his life like a normal human being, and it changes Rocky 5 and 6 to the end?
They're cruel. They're unforgiving. The dude won. You know what? They won the Cold War, man. You'd think. Remember that scene in Armageddon where they're recruiting oil drillers to go on an asteroid? But they had their list. They had their list of demands.
Yeah.
We want to know what happened to JFK. This and then.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis is like, we don't want to pay taxes again, ever. And you think the government gave him that, or do you think, Bruce Willis blew up the fucking asteroid, saved the world at the last second? Goes back. Okay, now is his daughter on the hook for some back taxes or some shit?
You're probably right.
Did the oil rig get condemned and foreclosed on?
That's right. You save the world, and he's fuck it, you're done.
Jeez.
That's great. Wow. I don't think. Now, all right, hold on.
Armageddon 2.
Who is the biggest heel woman in movies? The chick from Titanic?
Rose,
Is Rose the biggest heel in the history of movies?
man, it's hard for me to not say Jenny Gump.
Who?
Yeah, she sucked.
Oh, Jenny from Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's measure that real quick, though.
Okay.
So Jenny, Forrest is in love with her, and Jenny goes around and screws around with all those guys, and then in the end, she has sex with them so she could have a baby, and then leaves. She's gonna die and leaves him with a kid.
Right.
It's rough stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
But you got Rose. She goes on with her husband, right?
Oh, you
On
know
a
what,
trip.
You're right.
She starts fooling around on him. And the guy she fools around with, she makes stay in the water while she stays nice and warm, and he freezes to death.
Yeah,
Well,
she
I-
only cared about herself.
I mean, I think Rose kind of beats Jenny, right?
Here's the kicker is she threw the diamond in the ocean, because think about that. You've been sitting on what, 10, 20 millions worth of like this historic heirloom, and you're gonna just toss it in the Atlantic? Like your granddaughter, you can fund the next 5 generations of your family if you just give it to Bill Paxton. You know?
Right.
So maybe. I do believe Jack could not fit on the door, and I think James Cameron confirmed that. And everybody loves a martyr, and there's a weird male fantasy of always being like that martyr.
So you're saying the reason is Jack couldn't get on the door.
Because it would topple.
So he said, I'll show you. I'll stay in the water and die.
He sacrificed himself for her, in a sense.
And she went on to marry somebody else and probably forgot
Oh, yeah.
about Jack, right?
Oh, here's the other kicker. You know what? You're right. It is Rose, because she dies. She passes into the afterlife. Her last memory, she's walking onto the Titanic. She is not seeing her husband. She's seeing Jack
Right.
at the clock.
Right.
Turning around, super smooth. Meet me at the clock. What a bitch.
But she
Wait,
is.
hold on. Do we even know that she got remarried? Didn't?
Yeah, because she had the kids.
Yeah, she had a
How do you know
kid.
how do you know that wasn't Jack's kid?
Well, I guess you could say that, but I don't think so. I think she
No.
just got remarried.
I think there was some light dialogue about her. Like, that's where I met your father, she said to somebody, but it wasn't Jack. It was like, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we finally settled it. Rose
I
is
love,
trash.
Who?
Helen Mirren. I have such an inappropriate crush on Helen Mirren.
That is
wonderful
inappropriate.
actress.
I
That
love
is
her.
way over the
I
top.
love her to death.
She's a
There's
wo-
something about her. I think it was when she was in Arthur with Russell Brand.
Okay.
Dude, and she's got some funny one-line. I love her to death.
Was she in Red?
Yes.
Yeah, she's good.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, but that's kind of inappropriate.
I don't give a shit. So sexy about Helen
Oh,
Mirren.
real fast, I want to make sure we plug our Control Your Nutrition seasoning. So that's available at dudesgourmet.com. Because we're artists and we create with our palates. No, Tom here has a wonderful palate. Dude, he has these books about palates, and like the way he talks about it is like so infatuatingly passionate. It's like we talk about wrestling. It's super cool to see somebody do what they love, and he's done these and they're awesome.
I need some of that.
Yeah, we'll leave some.
All right, I want to thank you again for joining us on this special Friday edition with the NWA World Champion. Wishing you a long title reign, and hopefully you come back undefeated, and we have you back in studio shortly. Great, man. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Safe trip, guys, and we always thank you for dropping by. This has been Mike Monte. We'll be back with a special show after EC3 leaves. Jimmy's going to make a special phone call or a video call from Florida. Exciting times. Look at EC3, can't even believe it.
No, I was just figuring. Yes, then
He's-
we're
he's
gonna
in
get
shock.
We're gonna get EC3 out here, then we're just gonna shit on him. we're gonna get. we're just gonna.
All right, we'll see you guys. Be well. Love you all.